Wow, do we have a story today to talk about? Now, this is, of course, not confirmed. This is a story that is coming from makingstarwars.net, and usually they have a lot of things that are correct with their leaks. So I'm not here to confirm or deny that this is true, as I really don't know. I posted this earlier on my Instagram. So if you're not following my Instagram, go follow my Instagram right now. Engage with me and the community. I have a lot of fun there. It's just Star Wars Theory on Instagram. So today's story is a leak, and if you want to go in super fresh, even if this is inaccurate as heck and won't actually happen, just turn away from this video. If you don't mind and you want to engage in this massive, I don't even know what to call this. Like, if this happens, this is going to be really Marvel-esque, but at the same time, very Star Wars Rebels-y, and very, very Star Wars Theory-y as well. Star Wars Ahsoka exclusive, Young Ahsoka and the World Between Worlds. So let me start off by saying, you guys know how this channel started? Sure, you know, lore videos and me talking and all that, but for those who are new, I didn't show my face for the first 2.5 years of the channel. And I wanted to keep it that way because I really enjoyed how I was able to do my fan fictions, which was primarily the bread and butter of this channel and what I enjoy doing most. Now, of course, I enjoy connecting with you guys and all that, and showing my face allows me to do that a lot more easily and like a real person. I really enjoy writing stories, hope to write my own story someday, and maybe even my own trilogy of books that can be turned into a movie, maybe self-funded, or, you know, sell the rights to a studio or something, or work with a studio, whatever. That's like the long road goal. But generally, the channel started with fan fictions. And this leak, if true, is by far the most fan fiction-y thing I think we could ever get from Star Wars, period. I mean, unless they go on and create a what-if scenario, what-if show for Star Wars like they've done for Marvel, I don't see anything topping this. So what are we getting into? During the production of Star Wars Ahsoka, there was a code for a character I am reluctant to share at the moment. But through this code, I was able to figure out and confirm Ahsoka Tano had different code names for the different eras of her story using different actors for those moments. This was my first hunch that we would see Ahsoka in different eras of her life to some extent. But before you think that's all this story takes a sharp turn. To be clear, there is another young actor playing Ahsoka Tano in Star Wars Ahsoka, and it is not the excellent Rosario Dawson, nor is it fan favorite actress Ashley Eckstein. I cannot confirm if Ashley Eckstein is voicing the young Ahsoka at this time. The article goes on to say, to be clear, these are glimpses or small sequences, and Dawson will play Ahsoka during the majority of the story, which is great. We, the audience, will get glimpses of Tano in other times and eras via the World Between Worlds. So let me pause there. If you don't know what the World Between Worlds is, we saw it in Rebels. It's this very controversial thing in Star Wars where Ezra goes into this sort of literally a world between worlds that Palpatine was trying to get into. And he was able to unlock it and open the World Between Worlds. He opened the door and he walked in. In this place, the World Between Worlds, it essentially is a timeline space, a galaxy where he's walking and he sees every single moment in the Star Wars universe. And he can alter time, he can alter scenarios, and alter the outcome of different fights, wars, and even save those he loves or kill those he doesn't want around. When he walked in, he heard the echoing of, we heard the echoing of so many different things, of Luke and Vader. We heard a lot of different things. To get this in a live action show is going to have to be done really carefully, and there is no one else to helm this than Dave Filoni. And so that's why I'm not super skeptical about it, because I know Dave is the one that is carrying this show through. He is the one that is literally hands-on with this show. So, there is a version of Ahsoka in her late teens. One, for another undisclosed time, might be present-day Ahsoka in terms of the narrative itself. And finally, for the version we saw in the final moment of Star Wars Rebels in her magical white robes. My Darth Vader sources have confirmed, it's dope he has like Darth Vader sources, like, no, we can't give you any other sources of anything else, only Darth Vader. My Darth Vader sources have confirmed Ahsoka will fight Darth Vader in more than one way, and Hayden Christensen required some training for a sequence in the series because we will see his face again on screen, wearing the same costume he wore on Mustafar in Revenge of the Sith. I gotta bring out the cutout of Anakin, which is literally right there, and I gotta put it back because our boy is back in action. So we already were confirmed that Hayden Christensen is returning in Star Wars in Ahsoka. Now, we're getting a little more, I mean, not confirmed, but I feel like this is true. I feel like this is legit. We will see many possible outcomes for Ahsoka's life and how, in essence, no matter what, they all lead to a particular moment in her story. Okay, so obviously she's going in the world between worlds. She's assessing different scenarios and different moments. Her leaving the Jedi Order, her fighting Vader several different ways, several different times. So we could literally get a Groundhog Day version of Ahsoka's various pinnacle moments in her life for her to see how the outcome would be. That is interesting in itself, but it's also interesting to learn more about the world between worlds and how this whole time travel thing will affect the Star Wars timeline. I'm not a fan of time travel unless it's Back to the Future, but if it's done well, I mean, we'll have to see. We will see many possible outcomes for Ahsoka's life and how, in essence, no matter what, they all lead to a particular moment in her story. If Ahsoka had returned to the Jedi Order, she would be the one fighting Darth Vader on Mustafar, having the high ground, not Obi-Wan Kenobi, because what happened had to happen to get Tano to where she and the Skywalkers needed to be. I can also confirm Hayden Christensen filmed fight scenes with Clone Wars Ahsoka in this scenario. So let that sink in for a second. If Ahsoka went back to the Jedi Temple, this guy, Jason Ward, the guy who wrote the article, I believe, right, from MakingStarWars.net, goes on to think that if Ahsoka had returned to the Jedi Temple, then she would be the one that would be chosen to go fight Anakin Skywalker on Mustafar, or perhaps at the Jedi Temple. Now, I made a fan fiction of this. Part 1 is out. I have yet to complete Part 2. Big surprise. But I feel inclined to do so. I think what would happen in that scenario is that she would get diced by Anakin. I don't think she'd be able to break through to him. I think at that point he was long gone. And I think this is going to be a discussion that will be very controversial and a lot of us will have fun talking about it. So let's continue. Through the world between worlds, it seems present-day Ahsoka will learn that Anakin Skywalker was destined to take the path he did, and we, the audience, will see aspects of those outcomes, and in some of them, we see live-action Clone Wars era Ahsoka Tano played by a new actor in a duel with her former Jedi Master, taking the place of Obi-Wan Kenobi in this reality that never was. So somehow she ends up either on Mustafar fighting Anakin, or she's fighting him at the Jedi Temple. I don't see Yoda sending Ahsoka to fight Anakin, and then him saying, Obi-Wan and I will go and fight the Emperor. I just don't think that... Wow, we could even get Obi-Wan in this. I just don't think that would happen. Let's say she's at the Jedi Temple. She ends up fighting Anakin during Order 66 and protecting a lot of the younglings and so on and so forth. Tries to break through to him. Master, what are you doing? What's going on? Talk to me. He's conflicted, but at the end of the day, he does what must be done, and he kills her. He's doing everything for Padme at this point. He doesn't care. Nobody else will get in his way, not even Obi-Wan. So I feel like his connection with Ahsoka is on par with Obi-Wan. Different. Some say it's stronger, some say it's not as strong. It's hard to say. It's different, right? It's like a sister and a brother. So at the end of the day, I don't think there's anybody that would stand in Anakin's way. I think he would have decimated everyone that stood before him and would stop him from saving Padme. Ahsoka will also see other visions in these sequences. Had Ahsoka killed Thrawn and Ezra Bridger did not need to use the Purrgil, Ahsoka's destiny remained the same. So this is pretty cool. She goes through all of these different scenarios in her life and tries to change the outcome and sees that everything remains literally the same, which is weird. I guess she goes even further and sees what becomes of Ezra. Does he turn to the dark side? Does he remain in the light? Does it have anything to do with Thrawn? Maybe, maybe not. At the end of the day, Thrawn's just a catalyst playing in that game of Ezra's ultimate turn or not. So it doesn't really matter. The lesson for Tano appears to be that she cannot change her destiny and instead she must embrace it. In essence, it sounds like Ahsoka works through her regrets. This is why she is so centered and at peace when she's with Luke Skywalker. So this is from Jason Ward, owner, editor, and content supervisor of MakingStarWars.net. Again, not confirming this is legit, because I don't know, and not confirming that it's not, because I don't know. So let's read that Darth Vader sources thing again. I want to talk about that. My Darth Vader sources have confirmed Ahsoka will fight Darth Vader in more than one way, and Hayden Christensen required some training for a sequence in the series, because we will see his face again on screen, wearing the same costume he wore on Mustafar in Revenge of the Sith. So the costume he wore in Mustafar in Revenge of the Sith is the same costume he was wearing pretty much throughout all of Revenge of the Sith. So does he mean perhaps that Anakin won't have the robe on, or does he mean that he will actually be on Mustafar fighting Ahsoka? I have a hard time thinking that is the case, but I could see how Dave would probably do something like that, where maybe Ahsoka is with Padme and sees that Anakin has gone insane, or she's not even at the temple and she sees that perhaps the Jedi Temple is on fire or something, and she's with Padme at the time. or she's protecting Padme, or she runs to Padme, whatever it might be. And Padme says that she's going to meet Anakin on Mustafar or whatever, and because she probably trusts Ahsoka more than Obi-Wan, because she knows Obi-Wan's going to kill him, or trying to. And they end up going to Mustafar together, and they try to convince Anakin. Anakin ends up choking Padme, probably fights Ahsoka, and kills her, I would say. I don't think she would win. I don't think there's any possibility where she would beat Anakin on Mustafar, especially an angry Anakin who's like sort of into the dark side and sort of not. And I say that because he still had his blue eyes when he was fighting Obi-Wan, which means he was pretty conflicted. He wasn't full Sith mode, much like Dooku, right? But he was still using parts of the dark side. He just was very green to it. So if Ahsoka goes to Mustafar, yeah, there's just no possible way that she would ever win. I just really don't think that would make sense. Now, would she still trigger Anakin the same way that Obi-Wan did? I really don't think that she would. I think Obi-Wan triggered Anakin in so many different ways, and this is a beautiful discussion. I can go on forever about it, but I'm going to try to cut it short. Anakin was triggered by Obi-Wan in so many different ways because he represented a failure to listen to him. He represented the death of his mother, right? If you remember, it's all Obi-Wan's fault. He's holding me back. He represented the Jedi Council pushing treason on him to betray the Chancellor. He represented a lot of things where Anakin could have avoided a ton of turmoil, a ton of pain, and he probably blames Obi-Wan for failing Qui-Gon. And he knew that if Qui-Gon had survived, that he would probably not be so tormented in his life, and he'd probably have a lot better of an upbringing, because Qui-Gon was really the father figure that Anakin needed. Now, I always say, why didn't Obi-Wan use Force speed in that moment to catch up to Qui-Gon and Maul? But, plot armor, whatever. We could say he was using the Force to jump up, and his Force was regenerating at that point. But what I'm trying to say is I don't think Ahsoka would have triggered Anakin the same way that Obi-Wan did. And a lot of the traumas that Anakin had with Obi-Wan really were compounded over his whole life. Obi-Wan is always like telling him to be mindful of his thoughts, to, when Anakin went to tell him about his mother, he was saying, he's having bad dreams about his mother. Obi-Wan kind of dismissed it, much like Yoda did with Padme, and said, your thoughts betray you. I mean, these really aren't the kinds of answers that you would give to such a sensitive guy who has been a slave for 9 years and is away from his mother and has dreams of his mother. Anakin's most powerful ability was premonitions, was seeing into the future. Now, when he burned on Mustafar, this is explained in one of the novels, that power ceased to exist forever. And so for Anakin, not being able to see the future, even as Darth Vader is like, not being able to see, because he was always able to see the outcome of different scenarios and the future. I like to think of it kind of like it's a shatter point in a sense, but not really. So for Anakin, circling back to what I was saying, I think Ahsoka would probably have a better chance of turning Anakin back to the light than Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan at that point was pretty fed up with everything Anakin had done, and rightfully so. I mean, he slaughtered everybody at the Jedi Temple during Order 66. I think Ahsoka would maybe be a little bit more soft in her approach, but then again, it depends how Dave wants to write it. Maybe she would be so angry and so betrayed that she might be even more forthright. She might be even more aggressive towards Anakin for what he was doing. And I don't know. Maybe she has that bit of a sort of nurturing mentality that Obi-Wan didn't have, where she's a little more patient. She's a little bit more understanding, that she knew Anakin really didn't like the Jedi for a long time. And when she left the Jedi Order, she said that, I know what you're going through. Like, I feel what you're going through. And she looked at him in surprise and almost like she kind of knew about Padme at that point. But anyways, I think that she would relate to him much more than Obi-Wan would in this moment. And she could be able to level with him, be like, look, the Jedi have their issues, but this is not the answer. This is not the way. Why are you doing this? And he would open up. He was trying to open up to Yoda. Nobody listened to him. And so Anakin, he had so many closed doors in his face from the only people that really were keeping those doors shut on purpose from him, when all he needed was someone to talk to. And the only person he could talk to that would listen to him without judging him or whatever, shutting a door in his face, was Palpatine. And that's how it all happened. The Jedi basically just zoned him out, man. They just like gave him to Palpatine in a sense, where they just allowed him to not be able to talk to anybody, not anybody he trusts, and forced him into this sort of position where he's back to a wall. What do? Do I just let go of the one I love? Clearly he has commitment issues, clearly, and for a Jedi, that's not really a great thing. So he needed a little more care than normal people and normal Jedi who were taken in as, from birth pretty much from as a toddler. And he didn't get that special care. He didn't get that special treatment. And I think Ahsoka would be able to give that to him. Now, with Ahsoka going through all these different scenarios and whatnot, it's interesting that she will fight Vader in many different ways. Perhaps she fights him, ends up losing a bunch of times, and it's like a Groundhog Day type of thing that she keeps going. So it's like a simulation. I don't know exactly how that works. Maybe she just watches different versions. That would be pretty cool. She's just watching different versions, different universes of different outcomes or paths that she would take. And I think that maybe that's how they're going to do it. Anyways, I'm pretty excited to see this. I think this is going to be pretty dope. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Make sure to check this episode out on Spotify as well. Shout out to all you listening on Spotify. And I'm really excited to see this in person, if this is actually going to happen. I hope it's legit. I want to know what you think. Do you not want to see this kind of stuff? Are you tired of the world between worlds? But I think a what if scenario would still be kind of dope to see. I think it would be sick. I want to know how Dave's going to do this. I think the Ahsoka show is going to slap. I really do. This is like his live action show debut kind of thing. I know he did it with The Mandalorian, but this is some next level stuff. This is like his whole, this whole show will be his. So we'll see what happens. Love you guys. Thanks for watching this vid, and I'll see you on the next one. Until then, remember, the Force will be with you always.